This is the TT Artisan 27mm f2.8. It's a pancake-ish lens from TT Artisan that is actually autofocus. And although a lot of people do not like this thing, it's got vignetting. It may not be the sharpest wide open, and it's not weather sealed. I gotta say, for $100 and some odd, this is a damn good lens, and one that I never had any problems with performance in video or photo in any way, shape, or form whatsoever with my time using it. It's been about a little bit over a month now, actually almost 2 months now, with this lens on a camera body, whether it's on the X-T5, the X-H2, or on this Fujifilm X-E3 right here, which I'll be discussing later on. And let me tell you something, if you're in the mood to purchase a lens and you have that gear acquisition syndrome, but you don't want to take a huge risk, this is the lens to buy. I want to tell you guys that I do not test my lenses. I don't shoot a wall. I don't shoot a brick wall. I don't do any of that stuff. I do not come up with scenarios that are needed to put this thing through its paces to make sure. I don't do any of that. I use my lenses, whether it's at sporting events, which I used at, whether it's walking around, which I did, whether it's candid photos, which I did, whether it's paid shoots, I used it on that, whether it's events, paid work, I use it. I use my gear. When I give you guys a review, I don't just make up scenarios so that I can make something look as good or as bad as I want to in a controlled environment. I use the gear that I'm telling you I'm using. With that being said, I don't understand the flack and the hate that this lens gets. And honestly, I feel like it's because it's a Chinese lens, because it's a third-party lens. I feel like right now we're in an era to where if it's not name brand, people hate on you. From sneakers, clothing, to cell phones. If it's not iPhone, it's an Android. It's just an Android. It's never the fact that Samsung makes better phones than iPhones, and they have for the past decade. No matter what happens, a TT Artisan, a Chinese lens, will never be good enough. For under $180, you're getting a hell of a lens. The image quality I found is good, especially on the new 40 megapixel sensor cameras. It's sharp as hell, and the higher resolution of those sensors helps this lens out a lot. The vignetting is there, but for any of you guys that edit your photos in post, or for any of you guys that actually have your, shooting raw and the camera's editing for you inside the camera, it doesn't make that huge of a deal. Again, you can fix it in post. I don't really understand why people cry whenever you throw on 30 single filters, you throw on grain, you do everything to make it look like film. Well, here's your chance with a filmic looking lens. Is it the sharpest wide open? No. But is it soft? No. I must have had a good copy, and the quality control must have been off the chain for this, but that's a risk that I think that a lot of people, I wouldn't blame you for taking. Am I getting money for this review? By the way, no, I'm not. I'm not getting money for this review. In fact, I'm actually giving away this lens at the end of this video, so I'm not getting anything out of this. I just wanted to give you an honest as hell review about this. Continuing with it, it's got a nice smallish form factor. It's about the size of the 18mm f2 from Fujifilm, so it's not like the 27mm f2.8 RWR from Fujifilm small, but it's close enough. And again, I love pancake small lenses. This thing is lightweight, stays out of the way, hardly goes past the grip on the X-H2 whenever I was using it with that. And mind you, the autofocus algorithms on the X-H2 and the X-T5 made this lens right here completely just fly. Whether it's video, face tracking, subject tracking, whether it's just constant, stagnant or static, talking head kind of footage. This lens does everything it needs to. Is it loud when it focuses? I don't really know, because I never pay attention. Because here's the thing, unless it's by your eyeball, which of course you're gonna hear it loud when it's by your eyeball, you can't really hear anything. And even right now, as it's finding focus, you can't hear it. I don't like how we make things that aren't a big deal. No, it's not loud when focusing. And honestly, if any real professional videographer or someone that makes you on YouTube feel like they're a professional complains about lens chatter and focusing when they're recording videos, they're not a professional and they're lying to you, because who's not using external audio or using something to be able to not have the lens on your camera being so loud because it's going to an internal mic? Listen, this thing acquired focus really well. Even on the X-E3, on times where I took it out and was just snapping, here, there, whatever, different distances, focuses. This is at f2.8, so it's actually having to search. The thing's very responsive, and it's very, very fast. It does a really good job. And again, center focus on this is fantastic. In the center of the image, you're going to get a nice crisp shot. To the outside edges, gets a little bit blurry, but a lot of lenses do that, and we are more likely to give them grace if they aren't a Chinese lens than if they are. It does a damn good job. Not just a good enough job. This lens does a damn good job. So much so that if you had to choose between spending $350 to $400 on a 27 f2.8 RWR, unless you need the weather sealing, I definitely wouldn't recommend that. Because for most people that are buying that lens, you're using it for a small walk-around documentary lens, a small, street photography lens, something like that. And you don't need the greatest quality in your image from the standpoint of things that can be adjusted if you're shooting in RAW, coming straight out of camera from your lens. Even more, I talked about it earlier, when you put this on a 40 megapixel camera, the images look great. They look absolutely fantastic. You can tell there's a big difference between the 24 megapixel sensor of this XE3, even though I love this sensor, it's my favorite of all time, versus the 40 megapixel sensor. Again, I can only tell you about things that I've experienced, but when it comes back to focusing, it's very quick, it's very snappy. The autofocus and the face track and everything like that is fantastic. Even on a camera like this, able to use the eye autofocus, on which I completely forgot the XE3 had. It's great. It's fantastic. You're not having any issues. I missed some shots with this lens. Yes, maybe more than I would with the 27 f2.8, but those were in extreme low light conditions, and it wasn't because of anything other than maybe the 27 would have a better response to focusing. But if you're not in low light situations like I was in the situation where I missed a ton of shots, not really a ton, but a few shots with this, you're gonna be just fine. This isn't the lens you're gonna be using on a dance floor. This isn't the lens that you're going to be using whenever it comes to shooting, end of night events for weddings or even events that I shot with. Is usually not the lens you're going to use unless you have some off-camera flash. And with that being said, pairing this with an off-camera flash does fantastic. It's a wide-ish focal length at 40 instead of 35, but it's still wider than 50. And at 2.8, you still have some depth to be able to use it with flash, to where if you're shooting from the hip, off the gun, not looking at not looking through, the camera or anything like that, or if you're just manually focusing and shooting from a range, it's going to be able to capture everything you need to do. I mean, again, this lens is really damn good, and it's kind of hard to make videos like this because people will say you're just a shill, you must have been paid, but it's not that. If this wasn't a good lens, I wouldn't recommend this lens. I like it. I think it's fantastic, man. I think this thing is really, really good. And I'm happy to say that I'm giving this away. The company that sent this, shout out TT Artisan and their distribution company, which I'm gonna put right here. Thanks to both. I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna be giving this lens away because I actually like this lens, and I'm just gonna buy myself my own personal copy. And the way I give this away is very, very simple. All you have to do, and I don't ask for subscribers, so this is very, very tough, so I had to think about a way to do it, but I don't like to ask for subscribers because I don't think that you should have to subscribe to me. But I am going to ask, for the sake of this, all you have to do in order to win this is just comment down below anything. I don't really care. Start a conversation. Comment that you like the smell of wet feet. I don't care. Comment down below. Make sure that you're subscribed to me and you're subscribed to Dorian Coleman. And then in a couple weeks, probably in 4 weeks, because I'll finally be back home to be able to make some things, because I'm gonna be traveling for work and for personal stuff over the next 4 weekends, 5 weekends. So in about 5 weeks, I'll do a drawing and I'll just put them into a random generator with everyone, and it'll filter out people that aren't subscribed to me or Dorian, vice versa. And it'll filter out people that didn't comment, but I'll make sure that, this thing will be done right. It's just a good lens. Man, I really wish I could bag on this lens. I got a great copy. I can't bag on it. So with all that being said, before people start calling me a TT Artisan shill now, because I'm already a Fuji shill and a Leica shill, and I was a Canon shill for like a week. Now I'm a TT Artisan shill. With all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Take it light, but take it. Have a good one.